Hello everyone, it's Deborah at Attic Lane. Today I want to show you how to make 3D effect layered cards, and the format for this video will be a little different because I'll show you how to make one in detail and then I'll show you a couple of others using different elements. So to start with, you want 3 frames all cut to exactly the same size and then a piece of backing card. I've used Miri card and a piece of tracing paper over the top because I like that pearlized misty effect it gives. You'll also need some craft foam and cut it into strips that are slightly narrower than your frames. I'm adding glue to the reverse of each of the frames and I'm going to stick the craft foam onto the back of the frame. This is a far more cost-effective way of adding dimension rather than using double-sided foam tape, for example. So there they all are with all of the backings in place, and you can get a sense of how deep the card frame will be when you see them stacked up. So for this card that I'm going to show you, I used a die cut with some birch trees, and this is it cut out of white card, but I only want to use some of those trees. So I'm just working out which set of trees I want. And here it is, and I've glued the trees onto the back of the back layer. So this is my deepest background. Now I'm taking a die cut that I've had for quite some time and some white shimmery card, and I'm going to use one of the lanterns from the Cardio Stamps Vintage Christmas set, and I've inked it up using Versacolour cement. I've cut it out and now I'm just working out how I'm going to add all of the different layers to my card. So I think I'm going to use this across the top of the card, although it would be lovely down the side as well. So now I've glued everything in position, so I've got my branch across the top, and my lantern I've added to one of the branches that just sticks out across the centre of the card. I've also added a sneaky snowflake in there that I didn't show you, but I've used an old die cut, a snowflake die cut, to cut that out. I've stamped a sentiment which says "Just Believe" using laurel leaf ink, and I've heat embossed it with clear embossing powder, and I've done that onto a scalloped slope, so it's like a hill that will go right in front, and then there's another snowflake on the front of that card as well. So when I layer these up, you can see the trees in the background, the foliage in the centre with the lantern, and the hill and the little snowflake right at the front of the card, and it gives it beautiful depth and dimension. So now I'm going to mark up where I want to add some colour and where I want to add a stag stamp. I'm using spiced marmalade to add a golden glow behind where my lantern will hang in the scene. And when my colouring is complete, I'm going to add a very tiny little stag that will look like it's in the background, and I'm going to use a Cardio card stamp called Festive Scene. And I'm going to stamp it using VersaFine Smoky Grey ink because I don't want the stag to dominate the rest of the scene. I'm now going to glue the tracing paper onto the Miri card to give me that lovely pearlized, very soft effect. And then I'm going to position everything else on top of that and glue it in place. I'm going to add some final detail to this card with an extra snowflake just glued into place in the bottom right corner and another one in the top left corner. And you can see it slightly overhangs the outside edges, and I'm just going to cut that. All I need to do now is glue this to a card base, and I've got one that I've cut to size. So I'm adding some glue to my card base and I'm going to stick the whole design right on top. And with that, my card is finished. For my next card, I want to show you a different technique. This is Cosmic Shimmer Paste, and I'm using a stencil, and I'm just going to add some detail to one of the frames. This will be the uppermost frame in my next card. And you'll see when I remove the stencil, there's quite a lot of texture left on the outside edges of that frame, so I'm just going around them with my tool and scooping them up and putting them back in the jar. And I'll show you this closer up, and hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit of the texture and the shimmer that's on that card. And when that's dry, it's ready to use. The next thing I'm going to do is prepare my hills for my next scene. So I have the scalloped edge of a die cut and I'm masking it off with a piece of waste card. I'm using my tape runner to lay down some glue in a very defined space because I'm going to add a layer of glitter over the top of that, and I don't want it to stray onto the rest of my my white card. Once I've added the glitter and then tapped some of it off, I'm going to burnish it in place with my finger. Now I'm going to show you how I pulled those elements together into one card. So I've used that stenciled frame, I've used a lamppost from the Cardio Stamps Vintage Christmas stamp set that we saw earlier. I've also die cut some foliage you can see in the top using another die cut that I happen to have. And there are two hills in the front, just with that glitter showing across the top. I finished the card off with a piece of acetate glued right across the front, and I've used my glue pen to add some dots, and then I've sprinkled glitter over the top of that. This card again uses elements that we've seen already and one of the lanterns from the Cardio Stamps card set, and I'm going to show you how I inked that up. The lantern came from this set, Vintage Christmas, and as you can see I've already stamped a few of the images using a stamp platform, and my base colour is Versacolor Cement, and I'm going around the tops and the bottoms of those images with another colour of ink, and it's the Versacolor Smoky Grey, and you can see it just adds a little bit of extra dimension to the images. It means that they're not quite as flat as they would otherwise have been. And you can see close up what a difference that double inking makes to the images. So then I can cut them out and they're ready to use on any future projects. I'm going to leave you with some music and some images of all the cards that we've made today. Thank you for watching, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.